All right, we are live.
Great to be with
Okay,
you.
what's up? Great to be with you too. I missed you last week. It's
I
glad that
know
you
we
was
were on a
busy
little bit of
though.
a hiatus. We've been on a little hiatus. I've
All
been so
right.
busy working for clients all over Illinois, many different counties, some federal cases, some state cases, some immigration cases, and we're working very, very hard. But I was actually speaking at a couple of conferences the last 2 weeks, which was a cool privilege to be asked to speak. I spoke at ALA, which is a conference for a group for immigration attorneys. And I
Okay.
had another engagement the week before that. So unfortunately, that kind of cut into our podcast, but I'm glad we're back together. I'm glad we're doing it again.
Yes, yes, yes. And this is Checks and Balances podcast hosted by myself, Zoe Leigh, and John Heiderscheidt, aka John H. Examining power of policy in the U.S. Constitution. Each episode breaks down history, law, and modern America, cutting through headlines to explore how government is supposed to work, where it fails, and why accountability matters. So today we're going to be discussing the Supreme Court case. A little briefly about that, but before that, I don't know if this was your debut, John, but you had a little special on NBC Five, February 26th, and I liked your suit. Nice little suit
Well,
on.
I knew you liked it, so I broke it out. I broke it out again for this podcast. This is the second wear. I actually want to give out.
Yes.
I want to give a quick shout out to Bondi downtown. There's a great guy that dressed me there in this, and I could sleep in this suit. I could go to court in this suit. I could do family stuff. Like I just love it. It's wonderful. So if you're in the market to look sharp, check out Bondi. They're right on Monroe Street, I believe, downtown Chicago. Check them
All
out.
right. Shout out to yeah, he was looking sharp, my man. Look like
Thank you.
old Chicago. Look like we're gonna get old Chicago back, you
Well,
know.
we need to. Old Chicago worked. New
Yeah.
Chicago doesn't. So we
New
need to go
Chicago
back to
does
that
not.
old Chicago. We need to go back to that old Chicago way. Part of it
Amen.
is part of that is looking fly.
Look, hey, it's our turn. It's our turn now. Millennial turn.
That's right.
So yes, it says legal challenges to ICE detention soared to more than 20,000 during Trump's term. So here we go. Let's see.
Courts are seeing a flurry of activity. With more than 70,000 people in this country in ICE detention, courts are seeing a flurry of activity. The number of legal challenges to immigration arrests and detentions have reached historic levels. Our investigative reporter Bennett Haberly in studio now with what he has uncovered. Bennett.
Allison, 20,000 habeas petitions have been filed since President Trump resumed office last January. Immigration attorneys tell us that these challenges are a necessary fight, but acknowledge it may be overwhelming the system. While it's true the highly visible immigration crackdown on Chicago has largely subsided, immigration enforcement has not. Just ask Kenverly LaCruz Bracamonte, who now has a visual reminder of her recent ICE arrest. I think it's inhumane to carry this for a year on my leg, she tells me, referring to her newly fitted ankle monitor. The tracking device, she says, was given to her after being released from ICE detention. She was picked up January 29th and spent 16 days inside the Grayson County Detention Center in Kentucky. It was quite difficult for the first few days and hard to sleep, she told me. Kenverly entered the U.S. in 2023, was granted parole, and still has a pending immigration case. She was released from ICE detention earlier this month, after her attorney filed what's known as a habeas petition, successfully arguing that her detention was unlawful. The judge agreed.
This is a person that came from Venezuela. We just went in there and plucked Nicolas Maduro out of his living room, because he is defined by the United States government as a narco-terrorist who has run his country into the ground. How on earth can you tell that woman she is not a refugee from Venezuela when she participated in none of that there?
Her attorney, John Heiderscheidt, says 2 appellate rulings last fall have helped pave the way for the Trump administration to arrest and detain more immigrants, even those with pending cases or who were initially granted parole when entering.
What those cases purport to do is give the government more authority to arrest and detain immigrants, even when they have applications for relief on file with USCIS or EOIR. And we're seeing an increase in detentions because of those cases.
More than 70,000 people are in ICE custody. And with that, the number of legal challenges filed by immigration attorneys has skyrocketed, with more than 20,000 habeas petitions filed since the start of President Trump's second term last January.
If you look at the slope on a graph of habeas petitions, I mean, it goes straight up.
So the big word I always use is discretion. Whoever's in charge of the White House has a lot of discretion to enforce immigration law. This White House is choosing to use its discretion in a way that the prior 4, 5, 6, 7 presidents haven't.
The net effect, immigration attorneys tell NBC5 Investigates, is that you have increasing pressure on the court system and individuals like Kimberly.
¿Tienes miedo?
Sí, tengo bastante miedo.
Who says she's afraid as ICE can now track her every move.
Es un monitoreo que
Kimberly's next in-person immigration court date is set for June 2028. That speaks in part to the backlog of cases that exist. We did reach out to ICE and DHS, by the way, to ask about the pressure that the large number of detainees and all these habeas petitions places on the court system. We're still waiting to hear back.
All right. So,
Very cool.
very cool.
Thank you for highlighting that.
Yes, yes. So can you explain basically what she's going through? So, and I see that now they're putting the ankle monitors on the ICE people, well, the illegal aliens that are here. It's pending court.
Yeah, so I can talk about the habeas piece a little bit. And let's take a step back and not think about immigration.
Okay.
Habeas corpus is actually one of the oldest rights that we have as Americans under our Constitution. And, you know, there are many legal scholars that could explain it maybe a little bit better than me. But what I would say is if you boil it down, you're basically going to a judge and asking a judge to order whoever is holding a person who's being detained, order them to be brought to the court and explain why they're being held. And a lot of the times we see this in criminal convictions. You know, perhaps there is a state criminal conviction where due process was violated somehow, and the appellate stage is over, the direct appeals are over, a post-conviction relief petition has played out. You can still ask for habeas corpus. And when it comes to the context of immigration, Congress has written a bunch of laws that state how the government is to treat immigrants, both people who come in with inspection or without inspection. When you say illegally enter without inspection is the legal term of art that I think that you're referring to. So when you come in, whether you come in with inspection or without inspection, the United States Congress has written a set of laws over many, many years, decades really, that all kind of sort of work together and like a sandwich almost. Not every element is alike and whatnot, but they work together, at least in theory. But because different sessions of Congress were controlled by different political parties, the laws that have been written and connected sometimes just directly conflict with each other. And so there's provisions in the immigration law that say basically the attorney general can write their own law. But there's also provisions of congressional law that say that whatever act a government officer takes has to be, for lack of a reasonable is not the right term, but not arbitrary and capricious. That there has to be some justifiable reason for a government action. And so the big fight, there's 2 cases that the Attorney General issued, Yahore Hurtado and Q Lee. And that's the source of where when the NBC5 article or the NBC5 coverage talks about the uptick in habeas cases. Well, because of the way immigration law is being enforced today, more people than ever before are now having to bring these habeas corpus petitions and bring them with lightning speed. I find that like at least once a week, once every 2 weeks, I'm dealing with this either for a client of my own or a new person who walks in the door and says, "Hey, I saw you on NBC and that you helped somebody. Can you help me?" But one of the things it highlights for me, and we talk about this all the time in the criminal context, is the two-tier system of justice. My client was very fortunate that she had met me and vetted me and had a good relationship with me and knew that she had somebody she could turn to when it mattered most. And she was able to take care of the bill for the services, which were not unreasonable, but no matter what lawyer you go to, you're going to have to pay something. So, but she was one of the people that was in a position to do that. And that's a credit to her, to the way she's assimilated into the United States, worked, done everything right, followed the law, all those great things that we talk about and we want to see as Americans. Yep. But that's one person of 15 million or 18 million, and every story is different. And not everybody can afford an attorney to race into court for them on 60 minutes notice and file these really complicated legal pleadings. And what the government tries to do is, I'm dealing with this in another case right now. They try to arrest, if you're an immigrant, they try to arrest you and get you out of the Seventh Circuit as quick as possible. And the Trust Act here facilitates that. It gives the government an excuse to do that. So, that's where habeas corpus comes into play. Am I in custody? Do I feel that I'm in custody in violation of the law? Have I tried basically every other procedure that's available to me? Am I still in custody? I want a judge to verify that I'm here lawfully, that I'm not unlawfully imprisoned against my will, because that takes away my liberty against due process of law.
Okay. Well, it's sort of like this Supreme Court case I saw last week that went through was the Supreme Court. And a lot of people didn't talk about it as much as I thought they were, but it basically shapes how asylum decisions get reviewed in the United States. Correct. So the case, is a case of Douglas Urias-Orellana. So Urias-Orellana. Something like that, okay? And his family. Urias-Orellana left El Salvador with his wife and child after dangerous men threatened them, demanded money, and hurt members of his family. When asked for asylum here in the U.S., the immigration judge said what happened to him didn't meet the legal definition of persecution. The Board of Immigration Appeals agreed, and the family appealed again all the way up to the Supreme Court. The big question for the court was, when a federal court reviews an asylum denial, how much power do they have to disagree with the immigration agency? And the Supreme Court said not much. So today, we're breaking down what that means for asylum seekers, for the courts, and for the balance of power in our immigration system. So, as you know, John is here. He's the lawyer. Are you familiar with the case?
I haven't read the decision page by page yet. I'm familiar with the case. I know the principles that the case stand for, and the way you recited it was very accurate. It talks about, so preceding this case, let's talk about a case that happened while all of us were in diapers. It's called the Chevron case. And not surprisingly, an oil company could afford to get the best attorneys and go up to the United States Supreme Court and set a precedent. And what am I talking about? The two-tier system of justice. If I have more money, I can avail myself better of better lawyers and push my cause through the court system better than somebody with little or no funds has or is capable of doing. So unsurprisingly, Chevron got a case up to the Supreme Court. And what the Chevron case said, and this held forever, for a very, very long time, was that when administrative agencies make decisions, they were entitled to extreme deference, basically. They don't use that word, but the circuit court should not interfere in an agency determination, and unless it's really arbitrary or capricious, unless you really demonstrate that what the agency is doing is like the Environmental Protection Agency is seizing homes because they have oranges in them, something bizarre. What a lot of courts would say when you'd go to challenge an agency action is the Supreme Court has spoken. I owe them Chevron deference, and I'm going to go along with what they're doing, basically. And there's a constitutional tension in there, because where in the Constitution is the Environmental Protection Agency mentioned? It's not. Where in the Constitution are some of these other cabinet positions mentioned? They're not. Where is the IRS mentioned in the Constitution? It's not. And so, there gets to be this tension, and we always talk about, and you'll hear these phrases sometimes when you're listening to different lawyers talk about constitutional arguments. There's the originalist interpretation of the Constitution, which many conservatives align themselves with. And the idea of the originalist Constitution is the Constitution says what it says. If there's discrepancies, we look to the context of the historical times and the definitions of the day to help us understand what was going on. And if you don't like the outcome, the specific outcome that you're analyzing under the Constitution, you need to amend it. And you need to go through that process and amend the Constitution and change the Constitution to get to the result you want. And if you can't do that, you're stuck with what is. And then you also hear a lot of legal scholars, and there's some brilliant legal scholars that use this phraseology. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I don't think it's correct. But there are many brilliant people smarter than me that talk about the Constitution as a living, breathing document. And if you ascribe to the living, breathing document theory of the Constitution, what you're saying is that, and Thomas Jefferson was somebody like this, that really the Constitution is just sort of a collection of loose principles, and it's up to the different generations to use it as they see fit. And I see, when you talk way back about the people who were thinking these things up, and at the constitutional conventions, at the conversations that they had, you think about John Adams would say we're a nation of laws, not men. And I think it's really important that we be a nation of laws, not people. Today we would say people, we wouldn't say just men. But if we're a nation of laws, then due process exists. And where you have a place where due process exists, where we can all say, I may be right, I may be wrong, but there's a procedure I can avail myself of to get to the core rights that I want to get to. And even if I don't win it, I can accept that it's a righteous process, a just process, the best process that's out there. Certainly better than what's in Russia or China or some other places. I'm sure, Brittany Griner was very vocal about what a bad place the United States was. I'm sure she viewed it differently after what happened to her in Russia. And I'm not saying that I wish that on her or that I wanted that. Of course I wouldn't. And I'm glad she's back home now, and I'm glad she's doing what she loves and safe and happy. Even if she still doesn't like the USA, that's fine. But what happened to her in Russia never would have happened here in the United States of America. She would have been bailed out in X amount of days. She would have been able to get the best lawyers available. She would have been able to make her case about, I think she got stopped over like some silly personal amount of like vapes in the airport, basically.
Right.
And lost 5 years of her life over it. because we were not on the best of terms with the country that held her, and the country that held her had no due process rights.
Yeah, that is true. Ooh, I remember that, man. I got locked up in that year before. I mean, not that year. A couple of months before she got detained in Russia. I went through customs in the Bahamas, and I don't even smoke marijuana, but the people I used to work with, we just left California, and I had some of the joints in my bag.
This
And I was like,
sounds
oh.
suspiciously like a story I hear from clients from time to time.
And I'm like, oh man. So I'm like, oh yeah, just throw that out. And I'm not knowing that it's custom. So they're like, nah. So I ended up so I had to end up it was crazy because I had edibles and they didn't take the edibles.
You know,
Crazy.
society is so different today about the way they look at those things than it was when they were writing the laws. And there's some people who work in like customs or in other agencies that are more relaxed and, you know, go with the flow and whatnot. But no, CBP is not the place to just abandon edibles and hope for the best. I hate to tell you this, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Hello, everybody. Are we stiff? Oh, wait, back. Hope she's back. I doubt anybody's just going to want to look at my face for the next 30 minutes. Way back in college when I was doing a radio show, they said the first rule is never have dead air. So I just violated that rule for like 45 seconds. I'll give Zoe another minute or so, and if we can't jump back on, I guess we'll just cut the episode for today. But, you know, when you're looking at or you're talking about the Supreme Court decision or precedent that came down from on the review of persecution, what they're basically saying is, although we changed the Chevron deference in a case called Loper Bright, we're still going to stick with the more stringent burden of review if you want to get a district court or as a circuit appellate court or the Supreme Court to review the agency action in the case. And I think that's reflective of the attitude probably at the Supreme Court, at least among 5, if not 6 of the justices there, that the immigration backlog is just too big. And if every single case is allowed to play out all the way to the federal appellate circuit or the Supreme Court of the United States, what happens is, you know, the system becomes overwhelmed. So law versus people, can you explain more? I mean, in this country, the law comes from the people. And I think a lot of folks forget that. I think a lot of people, you know, we've never lived in a country where, like in old England times, they had the Star Chamber. So if they thought you did something, they'd just bring you in there and beat it out of you. Or they'd throw you in a vat of boiling water or feed you to the lions for fun. Or we don't do that kind of crazy stuff anymore for the most part, at least not in a government orchestrated way. You know, so where does law come from here in this country? It comes from the people, and the people wrote the Constitution, and the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And at the end of the day, yes, the Constitution exists and it sets up branches of government, but we, the people, elect those those representatives and those senators and the president who appoints his cabinet or her cabinet, however it may be. And but I think what's interesting, the way you caption that, law versus the people, initially it was meant to be law for the people, but we've moved into corrupt times and broken times, and we have many false leaders and false prophets, and we have many elected officials who don't have anyone's best interest at heart. And in a lot of ways, you have times that, you know, the New Testament talks about when Christ picked up his ministry. You're looking in, I mean, the Pharisees and Sadducees were very corrupt at the time and had exploited, quote unquote, access to their God, their creator, for financial gain. And we're exploiting that system. And you see that in city council today. You see that at the commission meetings, that you see that outside CTU when you're asking for audits that should have been provided half a decade ago. You know, we're in corrupt times. And so instead of law for the people, it becomes law versus the people. And a lot of the time, the government is better. Is the government broke? Yeah, kind of. But all these agencies have money, or nobody would be working for them.
All right.
And a broke government is far wealthier than the average broke individual. And, you know, the legal system has a lot of great things, but it's slow. The wheels of justice turn slow. They grind fine, but they turn slow. How could the Constitution be more accurately interpreted, in your opinion? I mean, I make no secret about this. I believe in the originalist kind of framework of interpretation. You know, it's clear to me that the Bill of Rights is applicable to all 50 states vis-a-vis the 14th Amendment. But when you look at things here like the Safety Act, when you look at things here like FOID, CCL, that stand in the way of Second Amendment rights, when you're talking about states trying to obstruct your ability to enjoy the rights that are bestowed upon you vis-a-vis the 14th Amendment. And I don't know if it's so much interpreting the Constitution. You know, I think a lot of people, especially legal professionals, a lot of it interpret it pretty similarly. Yes, there are some differences, but there are a lot of similarities. There's more similarities than differences. Let's put it that way. And, you know, so where those disputes come up, you need judges who are focused on, you know, how do the judges get onto the bench? They get appointed or they get elected.
All right.
Well, how do you get elected in Cook County? You go into the party and you get slated. Well, how do you get slated? You take the loyalty oath and, you know, do your drop of blood and everything else, whatever goes into it. And you agree that you're going to protect the system that exists. You're not going to do anything that's harmful to the ecosystem that's created this wonderful opportunity for you to be a judge here. And, you know, uni-party rule is not a good thing. It wouldn't be a good thing if it was, you know, uni-party Republican rule in Illinois for 50 years.
Right.
There would be problems with that too eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't been. It's been 50 years of Democrat Party rule. And the Democrats put the judges in place. And I mean, if you want to fix this place, look at what they did in El Salvador. You got to throw everybody off the bench and start over. You know, and that, I mean, that's just, there's a lot of judges that I like, that I respect, that work hard, that, you know, I'm of the mindset that, yeah, there's a couple bad apples, but a lot of them want to do it right. We're living in hard times. Everybody's feeling the crunch economically. And, you know, the court system can't fix it all. It's on the legislature to fix the problems. It's on the court system to mediate disputes in a fair way that leaves everybody feeling like, did I lose? Yes, but I was heard. Everything was considered. I got a fair ruling, and I can appeal if I want to spend the money on it. I actually think the justice system that they created here is one of the best ever created in the world. If you want to speak plainly about it, can improvements be made? Sure. Can access to justice become more affordable? Absolutely. That's why I started Subscription Lawyer. Look, here's a news flash: the legal profession is going to have to get more affordable because of AI, because of software, because of technology. There's massive displacement coming, but let's talk about that displacement for a second. If AI disrupts 45% of the labor market in this country, it's not on the court system to provide the solution for that. It's on the federal Congress and the state legislatures to provide the solution for that. And if you have state legislatures that want to create poverty so that they can justify continued federal subsidies that they skim off the top of, and then come shake anybody who works or has money upside down by the ankles to fill in the difference, that's what's going on in Illinois. And it's not accidental. I was foolish enough to believe, they don't know what they're doing. How could these nincompoops? They know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing.
Exactly.
They want to get anybody out of here that believes in independence. They want to get anybody out of here that believes in civil liberties or autonomy. They want the state to control everything here. They want the state to raise the kids. They want the state to manage the money for the kids. They want the state to own the house. They want the state to have a lien on the bank account. They want the state with you when you're trying to decide what to eat at Chipotle. And it's not tenable. It's never been tenable in human society because people don't work that way.
Right.
There's not what works for you does not necessarily work for me. What works for me does not necessarily work for my neighbor. Maybe we have some similarities, maybe we have some differences. As long as we live in a society where we're able to walk our own way, and you do your thing and I'll do mine, and we're going to respect each other's right to peaceably coexist. The problem is with these socialist maniacs, and that's what it is this election cycle. It's socialism versus Republicans. That's what it is. It's socialism versus common sense. And
Socialism maniacs.
It is.
That's what it is. Socialism maniacs.
Socialist yahoos and maniacs.
Yes.
It's your maniac mayor wandering around with Hassan Piker and then say, I can't believe what happened in Michigan today at the temple. It's nuts. It's nuts. And I respect anybody's right to believe whatever you want and who your creator is. That's between you and your creator. We can all reasonably agree to disagree on what we believe. I think that the times that we have right now, Malcolm X said it best, we need to set those beliefs to the side or we'll be at it with each other all day and all night. We need to set that aside and agree on some things that we can agree on and work towards.
Right.
And, we're not led by serious people in the city of Chicago. We haven't been for a long time. The lunatics at CORE over at CTU. I want to be really clear. There's a lot of great teachers out there. There's a lot of great teachers that work hard and improve kids' lives and are keeping this place from going in an even worse direction than it has.
Right.
That are doing their part to bail water out of the side of the boat, that really are. And so I'm never going to trash teachers or people in that profession, but the core lunatics that make those policy decisions, and we all know who they are, have worked to such a detriment of this city, have done such a disservice to this city, and have driven so many wonderful people away. And it's going to take focused, targeted, smart leadership that respects the rule of law, that respects people who lived in Chicago and built Chicago for generations. It's fine to make space for newcomers too, but there were people that were here for generations.
Generations.
There are generations of there are neighborhoods that paid generations of property taxes. That this is the only generational wealth that some families have to pass down. And it's fine to have, it's wonderful to have newcomers. It's great. It's part of a healthy economy, but not at the expense of the whole pie.
Exactly.
You know, and whether people want to hear this or not, how badly managed the immigration issue was in this city under the Johnson administration, and at the tail end of Lightfoot too.
Yeah.
You know, she's just as bad. She was
They
just
was the police stations. I mean, at least he got them out the police stations because they was in the police station.
You know, well, yeah, he got them out of the police stations and 500 into a room with one toilet and 2 cots where a 5-year-old dies of sepsis and nobody notices, and they're paying $2 million a month in rent for the space.
And then down
You know,
the street.
it's its own corruption, but yes.
But that's what he likes to own. No, he likes to say, well, I got, I inherited and I got them out the police stations. So, okay, yeah, you got them out the police stations. But then you put them in Streeterville and we lost all of the Streeterville money. And then we lost businesses on Magnificent Mile. Then the Standard. I mean, let's talk about it. But yeah, you're right.
Look at the downtown properties that are trading hands at 25% and 40% of what they were sold for 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and why is that important? Well, where do property taxes come from? Property valuations.
Right.
Where do property valuations come from? Recent sales. You know, and you're like, you want to talk about the new one that I've heard about in the last year or two is the unrealized gains tax. Well, you know, when they have to say that a property that traded hands at $42 million has to be assessed at $250 million for property tax purposes, you just create a cycle of damage and valuation collapse. That's what you do. And, you know, we have a state's attorney that has prioritized public safety more than the last one, I believe. But I don't know that people feel like, oh, I could just walk around at 2 a.m. and do whatever I want in the city. You know, maybe that's not true anywhere, but there are plenty of other cities that it's safe to walk around after 10 o'clock. And there are plenty of parts of this city that it's not. You know, but we have to, the next mayoral administration in this city has to prioritize in a serious way engaging with the business community so the business community wants to come back and wants to do business here. Chicago is not sunk. Chicago is a vessel of untapped, unrealized potential. And what's keeping us from realizing that potential are these socialist maniac yahoos who hate everything and anyone but the government, who believe in only, you know, you hear so much about this kind of privilege and that kind of privilege. How about government privilege?
Right.
How about the government privilege to live outside of the state, in which live apart and outside of the state in which you are responsible for delivering education to hundreds of thousands of kids. And King Charles, 6226, you're right. Vote red instead. Vote red down the ballot. And I'm so glad you brought that up. We're coming to the end of the primary. And you all did an amazing service for people. You interviewed candidates. You showed them who's out there. You let people see the real people. And it's coming time now where you've got to make your voice heard if you're going to vote in the primary season.
Got to.
And, but it's been a contentious campaign, and some of the candidates are not each other's favorite people. And I personally declined to endorse anybody in this cycle. I think it's important that the voters make their own choice. And I think it's important to respect the fact that even the person I might vote for somebody else might not. And that doesn't make them a bad person. But when the primary is done, we need to lock arms and come together and vote red instead.
Lock arms.
And I don't care how uncomfortable it feels. Believe me, I talk to people, I haven't voted Republican in my life. This is Chicago. I can't do that. We have to stop thinking that way.
Right.
Because otherwise we're going to get the next, we've had a series of what I call Humpty Dumpty mayors. Just broken buffoons, don't do anything right. All right, way to go, Doris. Vote it and flip it red. That's
that.
Way to go. Awesome work. I'm happy to hear it. Nice job. And whoever you voted for, it was the right choice for you. So I'm glad you did it. Congratulations on that.
And that's all that matters. I think we can work with every candidate.
Right.
We can work with every candidate. It's just like you go to a restaurant, go to a certain restaurant, it's a certain, I know I get this all the time. I go to Jamaican restaurants, I'm like, can I get curry goat? We don't have no curry goat. How? They don't have no curry goat, and it's on the menu. So then I got to do the second best option.
Yeah.
So that's usually oxtail. So you got to do the same thing. You have your favorite, and the favorite don't make it. We gotta make sure the other one makes it, because at the end of the day, we have to send a clear message to the world, to the country, and to the other blue cities that are going through the same thing that we are in the same blue states. Don't you ever play with Chicago again. Don't you ever play with the state of Illinois again. Don't you ever play with Cook County again. Don't you ever play with the Chicagoans again, the real, true Chicagoans, born and raised here.
And the best way to do that is to deliver an undeniable electoral message at the polls. Way to go, Sherry Q, 43. Red all the way. We're glad to have
all
you.
The way.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you for being part of it. You're part of something special.
Yeah, it's part of history. Part of history.
Differently, moving on. And, it's so important. When you sit down, ask yourself a simple question: who has run this state in the last 25 years? It wasn't Richard Nixon. It wasn't the Republicans. It's been Democrats. The difference is, instead of law and order Democrats that were kind of Republican-ish in some ways, now we have these socialist zealot maniacs who think that everything flows from government, who think that capitalism is awful, who think economics are evil, who think that money just grows on trees. You know how easy it is, right, Zoe? You know how easy it is to run a business and just go out there to a little money tree that everybody knows how to grow and pluck just enough of what you need for the day. Vote red, Susan. Vote red. That's awesome. I'm happy to see it. Happy to hear it.
Well, it's 3:48.
It is. Oh,
man.
And we got to run. We got to wind down today. We can't do more than 45 minutes or so today. We both have something to do. But it's been a
conservative and cocktails, y'all. If y'all want to head over to Trump Tower, just want to let y'all know that plugger.
What time?
6 to 9. It'd be nice to see this. This is our pre St. Patty's celebration.
So is this a monthly thing, or we do it
every second Thursday?
Every second Thursday.
Oh yeah, from 6 to 9. Rebar.
They have STEM night at my kid's school tonight, and so they do like different science and.
Oh no, good parent. You're a good parent. I understand.
I've been wanting to come to these. I have been
make it one day.
What's the second Thursday?
Yeah, you're gonna make it.
Right. Well, I think that Subscription Lawyer should sponsor one of these Thursdays.
Well, I appreciate that you do, and please understand, if you want to stay in this country, please hit up Subscription Lawyer. John Heiderscheidt, John H. He got you. He got you for your criminal, civil, and immigration needs. Just letting y'all know that.
I'm always here. I started my law firm to help people. We deal with people sometimes who are dealing with the worst moments in their lives, whether it's criminal, whether it's immigration, whether it's civil. A lot of the times we're dealing with folks who are hurting and need answers and just want to have somebody explain what a path forward looks like. And I'm very proud of the career I've had so far. We've helped many, many, many clients. I tell people I don't have a magic wand, but I will do everything I can to put you in a better position than you were before you came into my office. And we treat everybody with dignity. We treat everybody with respect. Whether you are on the lowest rung of the economic ladder or the tippy top, we deliver the same quality service and affordable fees. So, and I'm so proud to know you. You're a wonderful civil rights leader. You're an icon. You're becoming a fixture in Chicago, just like many other faces and names, you and Danny and, so many others. And
Miss Jessica.
Miss Jessica. And, it takes our problems are bigger than Republican and Democrat. Our problems are bigger than black and white, gay or straight, anywhere in between, whatever's going on today. We all have the right to dignity, life, liberty, and to pursue happiness as we know it. And too many times the state, the county, and the city that I live in actively get in the way. And it's time for all of us to take a stand. And if we lock arms and do it together, we're going to shake up the political world in November of 2026. And we can do it. Vote red instead. Vote
yes, and
red.
vote Tony Preckwinkle out. If y'all cannot.
$1 million Tony.
$1 million Tony, she got to go. She got to go. Let her go enjoy her last days by a beach if she can't go to jail. But Ed Burke, they put Ed Burke in jail, so I'm hoping that they can put her in jail too. I
want to leave with just this thought. Sometimes Republicans will get bashed for going and voting in a Democrat primary. If Republicans had not gone and voted in the primary for state's attorney, you would have had another Kim Foxx probably. It would have been a different person, but the same kind of policies. Mm-hmm. And sometimes being smart about how you allocate your votes in the primary can really have a great effect on who maybe the realistic choice that you're going to have is.
Right.
So, if you're feeling like, boy, I want to try to pick the opponent that I think is going to be the best for Republicans, but I'm going to do that in the Democrat primary, that's fine. You're not a bad person. Pick the person that you think is going to be the weakest matchup against a Republican. Come November, get out there and vote red. Vote red instead. Vote red no matter who. Any Republican at all is better than a continuation of the J.B. Pritzker socialist train that has done so much damage to this state. And it's going to get so much worse if he's elected to a third term and turns this place into his platform for a presidential run. We cannot let Illinois turn into the political puppet for him to run for president. Because if you thought the EO COVID shutdowns were crazy, if you think the gender fluidity stuff in the schools is crazy, if you think the $1 billion deficits are crazy, if you think the Safety Act is crazy, you have seen nothing yet. If this maniac gets a third term and decides that he's going to be the most socialist Yahoo of the bunch on the presidential stage, he's going to turn this place into his little test gerbil so that he can go on to the national stage and say, oh, look at how far left and wonderful I am. And it may play for the cameras. It may play for CNN. It may play for MSDNC. It may play for some of the other local outlets. They're not going to have to live those policies.
MSDNC. That's good. That's a good one.
You and I are. So it's great to be with you. It's great to talk to you. Thank you, everybody who listens. I love coming
Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for we're getting up there with our numbers too. So that's good. That's
what
good.
We get today.
Thank you.
I when you were having those difficulties, I was like, should I sign off? And then I thought, well, the live box is still on. And I just started talking and somebody threw me a softball question to keep it going. So I forget who that was, but thank you very much for keeping it going while Zoe was getting the technical stuff back on track.
Yes, it's grassroots, baby. That's what we do. Don't worry about it. Me and John are the biggest conservative news group in Chicago.
We're going to create a voting alliance that changes this place.
Yes, common sense. Common sense.
Common sense is going to
and rule. Where both people can come and work together. because you're going to have to work with Republicans, and Republicans, you're going to have to work with the Democrats. We are. You understand? But we're not going to continue to have this one party chokehold. It's not fair.
And we're in dire times. It's time to shed those old labels and say we're all Americans first. And these are the rights and responsibilities and benefits that we can all agree to being part of this same wonderful country. So we'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day.
All right. All hands on deck. Please like, share, and subscribe.